Mark Millar and Netflix, they ain't playing. NERDSoul. Late Ill Kid at OneYoungsta holding it down, bringing that StreetGeek and NERDSoul. What is up, my people, today? Oh yeah, we get into another wonderful episode of Droppin' Jewelz. That's right, we gonna shine on y'all. There's a couple things that we missed during the week, so we're gonna sprinkle it in this show. But today we're pushing everything aside because we got a little more news about Netflix and the acquisition of Millarworld. So we got something from the Hollywood Reporter saying that, hey, there's a little bit more that we've learned, and we're gonna break it down here. Like, one, unfortunately, there's a couple of titles that Netflix just ain't gonna be able to use. Like Kingsman, like Wanted, which we already knew about, Kick-Ass, which we already knew about, but also Starlight, Chrononauts, Kindergarten Heroes, Superior, stuff like that, they're not gonna have access to, which kind of busted up my top 5 reasons or top 5 movies or top 5 properties that Millarworld should make in Netflix. So let's talk about what we do get. In this case, this seems to be, of course, the first company that is being acquired by Netflix straight up just for content. The news is coming out that it was about $30 to $50 million, which is a huge payday for a lot of the creators that were under Millarworld and just the properties that they represented. Also, a nice tidbit of information came from Todd McFarlane when he says, you know, they could either do something like go to 10 different people and ask for 10 different ideas, or they could buy a clump of ideas, which seems to be what they did with Mark Millar. So with the information of the titles that they won't get, the things that they don't own because they've been previously sold off, but they spent all this money and they only have a limited amount of products or properties from Millarworld, what now? Well, the article seems to suggest that the important part is they get what comes next. And what they really got, what they really purchased, what they really gained is the mind of Mark Millar. They've gotten the essence, the style, the foresight, the kind of storytelling vibe that he gets as a consultant to these new projects, that he provides as kind of the atmosphere and tone that he puts in all of these very interesting and interconnected worlds that he produces. I mean, the guy is grinding so much that he even said himself that he's kind of going into the creative bunker from now until spring to kind of bring out brand new properties, brand new titles that, of course, Netflix is going to be able to shine with through their streaming service. So before we get into possible properties, let me remind you that you can find me at Black Hollywood Live. That's right, first online network for African Americans is so dope. And you can find them at blackhollywoodlive.com, where they have celebrity interviews, after shows, sports talk, geek, nerd, tech, and all that at youtube.com/blackhollywoodlive. So the meat of this seems to be a very interesting statement about the projects that already exist that they could take, I guess, advantage of, if you will. Like Reborn. And Reborn, of course, if you remember, I was talking about before, it talks about sometimes in the afterlife, things ain't over and the war rages on. Or MPH, which is a little maybe closer to home, with a whole bunch of teens running around Detroit and the things that they get into. And I love the art style of MPH. It's very unique. And I'm very interested to see how they play that off on screen. Like, will they kind of bend the light, play with the light, maybe play with the sets, or maybe how it's color graded, if they decide to use MPH. And of course, one that they call Jupiter's Legacy, which looks like the article is kind of pushing us to believe could end up being a cinematic universe on its own. Now, what does this mean? Does this mean that maybe just a cinematic universe just on streaming? Because we know that Netflix is also pushing into theaters to a certain degree as far as like limited runs, you know, special events. Could this be something where Netflix starts to push a little more towards the theater with some more limited runs, like say, hey, it releases on Friday, so between Friday and say the next Wednesday, we'll have this movie in theaters, something like that, because this is giving them the power to push back against maybe the loss of the titles that Disney is taking away when the end of their contract finishes. So all in all, we're gonna keep up with this because I'm very, very psyched about new properties, about, I guess you could say, more competition. We have Disney, of course, with Marvel. We have Warner Brothers, of course, with DC. They're doing their thing. And you have, of course, Sony with the Valiant universe, which is in development now, but there are some things like with Harbinger, with Bloodshot, and even with Shadow Man now with their director of Reggie Hudlin kind of pushing forward. So this is gonna give us more variety, more diversity, and more competition. And we know that, of course, competition, of course, sharpens that sword. So that means that the more competition, the more varied stories that we get, the better will be for comic book and graphic novel adaptions. And that's what's so important to me about this particular kind of merger or acquisition, I guess you could say, is because this is going to help the genre survive. Because of course, Avengers can't do it alone, Justice League can't do it alone. We need more broader kind of storylines, broader content to be able to save and preserve this genre as long as it can go. We don't want this to end up being like Westerns. So we need things like, you know, like Avengers, but we also need things like The Walking Dead, even though I don't watch it anymore, but that's a whole nother thing. We need things like The Walking Dead, or we need things like, you know, Cloak and Dagger. We need things like Justice League, but then we also need things like maybe like Reborn or Kingsman or any myriad of different options and titles and properties that we get coming. So guys, holla at me, I'ma holla at you down in them comments. Let me know what you thought about this article. I'm pretty, well, no, I won't even say pretty. I'm very optimistic about what's gonna happen with this particular story, with this particular acquisition, what we're gonna get going forward. We've seen what Netflix can do with comic properties already, so I am psyched. So guys, before I bounce, I gotta tell you to hit up ThatNERDSoul.com. That's right, check me out right there. All the videos from the oldest, newest, latest, greatest, and all that. Then hit up shop.thatnerdsoul.com and pick yourself up a t-shirt, player. And don't forget to get one for them playettes. Then come back here, like, comment, subscribe, and share that NERDSoul. That's right, there's no better way that I can show people that you like what you are watching. And of course, LA, what up? VA, what up? RBA, you got my heart. So please be good to yourselves and be good to each other. And guys, don't forget, Mark Millar is no joke. We're in for a treat. Peace.